Please. I know it's just a couple of minutes before the hour, but we are so excited for our program today. I want to make sure that we speed through our business a little bit and make sure we leave plenty of time for our program. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to welcome each and every one of you here. I'm so glad that you're all here. We're all so glad that you're here. We have so many wonderful things happening in Washington County right now and among the Washington County Republican women. As we get started, I wanted to make sure and recognize some fantastic women here in the room who are members of our club who won their races in the city this week. So many good women. So let's see, we have Mayor Donia Jessup from Hillville. We have soon-to-be Mayor Nanette Billings from Hurricane. Let's see, I know Mayor Michelle Randall RSVP, but I haven't seen her come in yet. So she's running late, but she will be here. So, and we also have Krista Hinton, who won her city council seat in Santa Clara. Now we have another list of wonderful women who also won their races, but they're not here, so they're missing out on recognition. So make sure you're here next time. So we are going to follow our program, except I have a few little changes to our program. So first of all, we will have our opening prayer by Sharon Simmons, and then we will have our Americanism and the pledge by Carol Bracken, who's been able to make it. And then you will see that we have a new member recognition and welcome, Michelle Robinson. And then finally, you'll see on your program that there are some bylaw changes that we were going to vote for today. And it was brought to our attention that the version that we sent out to you did not have all of the red lines and all of the changes that should have made it in, that were discussed. So we are tabling the bylaw changes until December or January. So you should watch, members should watch in their email and likely in the newsletter as well for another version of the bylaws to come to you so that we can make sure that we get everything covered. It's very clear what those changes should be. So just watch for that and know that that's off of our program for today. So with that, we will begin with the prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, we're thankful to Thee to be gathered together today as colleagues and friends to enjoy the nourishment Carrie provides and to learn about a local charity. We're grateful to Thee to be joined by Shirlee Draper with Cherish Families, who will speak to us about this charity and how it helps families in our community. We're grateful to Thee for those citizens who are publicly standing up and pushing back against those who are doing our country harm and who seek to destroy all that makes this country Thou gave us great. We're thankful to Thee for all the GOP wins nationwide this election day. We are very grateful. Father, we ask Thy blessing for all American patriots, that they hold strong to Thee, to country and to freedom, that it may return to its former glory as a shining city upon the hill. We ask Thy blessing for Shirlee Draper and the Cherish family staff, that they continue to receive the support necessary for those who need and benefit from their help. Father, we also ask for Thy blessing for our dear friend and member, Cleo Adkins, who is unable to be here today as she's coping with some health issues. We ask this in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
November is a month that we associate with feelings of gratitude. We are grateful for all who had the courage to run for office and congratulate those who won. Yay! You can also be grateful for the recent election upsets in states such as New Jersey, New York, Minneapolis, Seattle, Texas, and especially Virginia. Message has been sent loud and clear that parents are not forfeiting their rights and that people care about their families and their country. The United States of America was based on principles of individual freedom, love of family, and love of God. In a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving cartoon, Linus' first Thanksgiving feast, he said, in the year 1621, the Pilgrims held their first Thanksgiving feast. They invited the great Indian chief, Massasoit, who brought 90 of his brave Indian warriors and a great abundance of food. Governor William Bradford and Captain Miles Standish were honored guests. Elder William Brewster, who was a minister, said something like this: "We thank God for our homes and our food and our safety in a new land. We thank God for the opportunity to create a new world of freedom and justice." End of quote. It is interesting to note that this country was the first country in the world to make a national holiday just to give thanks, and there is much to be thankful for. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are pleased to announce new members for this month. This year, for total, we have 38 new members that have joined our club, and 6 of them have not been recognized yet. So if I call your name out, just stand up so we can get to know you. Randall Wong. Rosemary Spike, her mother, right here by her. Jason Stitt, over here. Carol Hanson, and that. And we also have Diane Eyre and Louise Doolander, who aren't here today. So, we'll recognize her. She's joining today, so we'll recognize her next month. Thank you. Okay, so Republican Women now has 102 members and 30 associate members, and of this 132 members, 74 are gym members. These members pay money to our club beyond the $35 annual dues and have essentially eliminated our need to fundraise. They, in turn, periodically receive VIP perks. So we do have one renewed gym member today, but she's not here either. Betty Ariel is a new gold member. So we appreciate her. We love when our members bring guests. The NFR theme for this year is each one bring one. So if you have a guest today, we'd like you to stand and recognize you. Peggy is your guest today. This is my friend Peggy. We're happy to have you. You've come a couple times, so you need to join the club now. Welcome, Jenny. Right here, who just joined, tell me your name again. I know I talked to you. Madeline. Okay. Welcome you. Glad to have you. Okay, good. All right. Okay, who else is guests today? Yeah, down here.
Phil and Bill Delgado.
Welcome. Okay, right here. Candace. Jason. Welcome. Okay. Good.
My friend,
There we go. Everybody baby. Hey, anybody else? Right here.
My mother. Yes.
Okay, great. I recognize her. Hey.
We brought you over.
Okay. We catch all our visitors. All right, we're grateful to have all of you here and hope you'll all join our club. Okay, just so you're aware, the way that membership works is we're beginning our membership drive right now for the 2022 year. If you haven't renewed for a year, make sure you remember to renew, okay? The next item on our agenda is the nominating committee, which has met and will announce the slate of candidates for our next year's executive committee. Before I turn the time over to the nominating committee chair, Chris Dickinson, I had a little something that I wanted to say, to talk to you about. And I wasn't sure, even when I woke up this morning, what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. But I can tell you that over the course of the year, I have learned so much from you, and I've grown so much. And one of the things that I have loved the most is the way that I have heard your stories, and they've become a part of me and helped me become more of who I am. So I thought that maybe I would tell just a really little short story today. The story starts with a girl who graduated from high school and had big plans and big ambitions, and who went to college. And while at college, she met the most absolutely wonderful young man ever, and fell in love and got married. And together they had great plans and great ambitions. And along the way, things changed just a little bit. They decided that they were ready to start a family. And the way that their story worked, as you can tell, this is my story. The way that our story worked, it made the most sense for me to finish my undergraduate degree and then to choose to stay home with our wonderful, incredible, beautiful children. And the original plan was to put my professional goals on hold. But over the course of the years, as we had more children, each one of them so beloved, 6 children later, I had decided that my plans were not on hold anymore. They were more like dreams that I had sacrificed. But a great deal, thanks to you and to the women that I have gotten to know, I have come to understand over the course of this year, better than ever before, that first of all, my story isn't over. I still have time. I still have time to do a lot of things. And so I have also learned more about myself and about who I love to serve and what I love to be doing. And so I called the nominating committee chair in the middle of her own campaign for office, by the way. So this wasn't just a small thing to offload on her at that time. I called her only a couple of weeks ago and told her that I was withdrawing my name from being the president for our new executive committee because I have found a program that I can do mostly from home, but also with just a little bit of traveling to go to law school, as I had planned on doing so many years ago. Thank you. So I'm obviously nervous. I'm not a traditional student. So thank you for your support. But I felt like I owed it to you so that you knew really what went into that and how much of an impact you have done on me. I'm not going to disappear. We're still here. But I won't be the president next year. And so I hope you can all understand. And I wasn't ready to publicly talk about that yet when I called our nominating committee chair, because I wasn't sure how long it would take me to really be confident that I was going to be able to do what I wanted to do. But I'm feeling better about it now. Whew. Okay, so I just want you to understand what a difficult job it was that I gave to the nominating committee, because they had thought their job was mostly done, and then they had to rethink everything. So I asked them to be very deliberative, and when they sent me the slate of candidates that they had picked out, I was already going to miss this job. But again, I've loved working with the women I've worked with, and next year's slate is so fantastic. And I felt one more time a little bit of, not second thoughts, but it was hard. It was hard again. So I'm excited for the nominating committee, the slate that they picked out. And I will turn the time over to Krista Hinton, our nominating committee chair.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. So our nominating committee met together, and the slate that we'd like to present to you today would be president for next year, Kristen Walton, first vice president, Cheryl Snow, second vice president, Joanne Brenton, third vice president, Natalie Larson, secretary, Brenda Wade, and treasurer, Krista Hinton. So that is the slate that we came up with. And do I turn this to the parliamentarian? No. Okay, so we will vote on these. Why don't I have everybody that I just named off stand up? Point of order. That's what I was wondering. Do I have them stand first? Okay, are there any nominations from the floor? Say it 3 times for each candidate. So should I go back? Oh, got you. Okay, so back to president. Are there any nominations from the floor? Jennifer?
I would like to nominate.
Okay, I am, yep. Okay, we'll start. Okay. Okay. Yes, Haley is right here. Would you like to stand up? And should we have our other president candidate stand up as well? Kristen Walton should stand as well. Yep, from our slate. Okay, are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations for president? For president, are there any other nominations? Okay, great. For first vice president, we have on our slate nominated Cheryl Snow. Are there any other nominations for first vice president? We'll start. Okay, Charmaine, would you like to stand? Okay. Are there any other nominations for first vice president? Are there any other nominations for first vice president? Is that my second time or my third time? Are there any other nominations for first vice president? All right, thank you. All right, for second vice president, there's been a nomination by our nominating committee for Joanne Brenton. Joanne, would you like to stand? Thank you.
Are there any other nominations for second vice president? Over membership, I should say. Are there any other nominations for second vice president? Are there any other nominations for second vice president? Okay, then that means the nominations are closed. Our third vice president, our nominating committee has nominated Natalie Larson. She's not here today, but you might know her. She was just elected to St. Louis City Council. So you've probably seen her around. Are there any other nominations for third vice president? Are there any other nominations for third vice president? And are there any other nominations for third vice president? Okay, and our nominating committee has nominated Brenda Wade for secretary, and she's back here. Are there any other nominations for secretary? And are there any other nominations for secretary? Are there any other nominations for secretary? Okay, that's all of our nominations for secretary. And then our nominating committee nominated Krista Hinton. I'm standing for treasurer. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? We'll start. Okay, Rachel Morgan's been nominated for treasurer. Rachel, are you here? Okay, great. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? And are there any other nominations for treasurer? Okay, that would be the end of our nominations. Thank you very much, and we will vote on those next month. Okay, so we have one more nomination to be made from the floor, and that's a nomination for member at large. So do I have any nominations for member at large? Jennifer?
I would like to member at large. Just real brief, she's new to the club. She's only been here since March. She's here from Colorado. But she's not new to politics. She has been club president in Arkansas and Colorado. In Arkansas, she's also vice president. She served on the NFRW Literacy Committee, and she had a group. She was an NFR regent from 2017 to 2020. She served as Republican County Committee member in Arkansas and Colorado, as well as secretary in Arkansas. She's been delegate to the NFRW convention from 1997 to 2018. There's only missed 4 conventions since then. In addition to all this, she's been an election judge both in Arkansas and Colorado, as well as organizing neighborhood walks, candidate meet and greet, as co-chair of Arkansas Fall Rally and Lincoln Day Gym. So in addition to all of this, she's well versed in Robert's rules, which I think is important in running an organization. And I'm just really strongly wanted to just let you know, because she is new, that she has got so much. What a wealth of knowledge that comes from this lady and from our husband as well. So well, I'll second the nomination.
Great, thank you. Are there any other nominations for member at large? Are there any other nominations for member at large? Okay, that will close our nominations for member at large as well. Thank you.
We're going to move on to the program portion of our program. And we will have Yvonne Wall introduce our special guest.
First of all, I just want everybody to know how thrilling it is to see this club continue to grow and to become what it has become. I was in Washington County Republican Women in the 90s here in St. George. It was a very small club. And then I ended up getting wrapped up in my family and didn't end up coming back into the involvement with it until about 10 years ago. And it's night and day. And it's wonderful to have so many incredible women and men that come and meet monthly to make our world a better place. I just want you to know I really, really appreciate each and every one of you, because you all have your special gifts that you bring to the table, and it's remarkable. Today, I'm going to be introducing you to Shirlee Draper, and I kid you not, she's an amazing I don't know anybody that can beat her. I mean, we all have our different things that we've accomplished. And just like what we just heard about the new member, which I don't know who you are, that you just rattled off. What? Okay, Kathy, everybody has their own gifts and talents, and Shirley has brought something to this world that is amazing. She was born and raised in Colorado City, Arizona, within the fundamentalist polygamous sect known as the FLDS. She was placed in arranged marriage and had 4 children, 2 of whom are disabled or have special needs. After the rise of war and dress, she took her children and left everything she had ever known to move to St. George, Utah. As a single mother, she obtained a Bachelor of Social Work, a Master of Public Administration, and began providing social services for former fundamentalists through a nonprofit, Cherish Families. That in and of itself is amazing. Okay, that's just the tip of the iceberg. She organized the Short Creek Community Alliance, which facilitated the election of the Secular Town Council and our first female mayor of Philadelphia in 2017. She was instrumental in creating and opening the Creek Valley Health Clinic, serving as its first president. Imagine a mother with 4 children doing all of this. She currently serves as the president for the United Effort Plan Trust, which owns the land and homes in Short Creek, which is Philadelphia, Colorado City. Board member for Short Creek Health and Recreation, treasurer for Short Creek Community Center Board, board chair of the Utah State Disabilities Advisory Council, director of the operations for Cherish Families, which offers crime victim and wraparound services for people from polygamous backgrounds who need stability. Are you tired? I want to know what drugs she takes. No, vitamins. She specializes in bridging the population with mainstream society and provides education for outside service providers and government agencies to facilitate cultural competence in dealing with the fundamentalist community members. I myself have a very small perspective of what takes place out in Colorado. Cities in Hillville, we all hear the stories, but it's all second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 20th, passed along. I can only imagine the mountain she has climbed over her adulthood and how in awe I am at her and any other woman that has had to fight for this kind of stuff. So Shirlee, you're awesome. Come and take over. Okay, I have a slideshow that I'm hoping will. Can we put it up right here? Okay. All right. Okay, so while we're doing this, okay, well, so while we're getting it set up, I just want to thank you all so much for having us here, for having me here, and thank you for that beautiful prayer. And I'm afraid I'm going to start crying like right now, and then it's just over. So I try not to get really personal when I do this, because if I start crying, I can't stop. And so I try to be really clinical. And my dearest friend in the entire world, Lonnie and Jessica over here, she's able to get emotional and stay on top of it. So I may actually ask her to just help me out here. And so I was told that to tell a couple of stories and then talk about what Cherish Families does. And so I'm going to do that. But one of the things that we struggle with as an organization, and I think that most social service nonprofits do, is the temptation to exploit people and traffic in misery. And so the story that I'm going to tell this morning is is my story. Maybe not. I'm just going to start off by saying, when I was being raised in Colorado City, yes, we believed in polygamy and we were fundamentalists, but we were a lot more progressive than we were at the Warren Jefferson. I was raised in a village. And I'm going to tell you something, I miss having a village for my children in the worst way. And so I grew up in a really loving family, and we did lots of musical things. So we didn't watch television, but I read lots of books. And then I grew to be 22 years old and was placed into an arranged marriage, as we talked about. At the time, I firmly believed that's what God wanted me to do. And I accepted that marriage assignment. My husband got a plural wife, my younger sister, while I was married to him. And then Warren Jeffs, of course, rose to power and changed everything. He started doing things like closing down our schools and making all of our choices for us and making it so we couldn't say certain words. And I could just see this thing going off the rails so badly. And I thought, I need to get out of here. I want my kids to have education because it was so important to me. But I had a huge, huge problem, and that was I owned literally nothing. I didn't have a job. I had no income. I had no credit history. I had no rental history. And I couldn't figure out how I'm going to take 4 kids under the age of 10 out into the big, bad world that I'd heard so much about all my life and support them and be safe. And it was compounded worse by the fact that every time I came to St. George, because I looked like one of those pigs, that I was treated with a lot of hostility. And so for 6 years, I kind of did this little dance. I got to keep my head down. I got to keep my mouth shut because I don't want to get kicked out before I have the chance to take care of myself. And all the while being terrified for my children. And knowing that when I left, I was going to leave everybody, all of my friends and all of my family. And that being utterly alone, if you've ever studied Maslow, the number 1 human psychological need is to belong. I was going to give that up and my identity and my family. And I'm not going to cry. So I finally saved up enough money, got somebody into renting to me over the phone. They couldn't tell that I was a deviant. They couldn't see me. And I went to St. George. And I was thinking, this was my big plan. It was brilliant. Move to New York, change your name, never look back, don't tell anybody who you are, and just have a life. And I should have done it. But I made it as far as St. George because that's where my daughter's doctor was. And my daughter's doctor was the reason she's alive today. She's 20. She's the most incredible, beautiful little soul. And so I got to St. George, and then people started coming and finding me, people from my hometown, saying, how did you make that work? I need help. So I started putting them on my couch and looking for services. I'm not crying, do you hear me? And I realized, I'm like, somebody's got to help. But I was looking around at some of the other organizations that were helping, and the helping consisted a lot of putting people on the news and forcing them to change themselves and forcing them to say horrible things about their families and saying, look at the good things we're doing because we've turned this person into somebody else. And it was so exploitative, and I wouldn't subject myself to that. I thought somebody's got to do this better. Somebody's got to do this in a culturally sensitive way. Somebody's got to do it with evidence-based processes and services, and please be trauma-informed. And I'm looking around thinking, who's going to do that? And I have this lovely saying on my computer. I love it. It says, I've always thought somebody should do something about that. And then I realized I am somebody. So we started Cherish Families. It was incorporated in 2014. In 2015, we got our first grant. I was doing all of everything grassroots for free because we didn't have any money. We got a grant of $500 a month in 2015, and that was my first paycheck. That's also when I went back to school. No, I went to school in 2013, in my 40s. It's never too late. I got my master's degree. and so Cherish Families is an organization that serves my people. I'm always going to say it's my people and it's us. Even though I'm no longer part of the religion,
I'm not going to further other people because I feel like we're all humans. We all belong to the human family. And we might have difference of opinion, but everybody deserves respect and regard. So I first hired 2015 was me. In 2016, we got our other grant from the Three Quarters Women's Giving Circle, which was awesome. In 2018, we got this building in Colorado City. I think this has a pointer. Yay! I love pointers. I'm like a cat. This building in Colorado City was the building that Warren Jeffs used to publish his revelations and send all over the world to the tune of several $1 million quarterly. And it really was harmful to the people who lived out there because he extracted that money out of them. We obtained this building from the trust and remodeled it. And now that's where we have our food bank and our community education classes and all of our advocacy and everything we do. So in 2015, we got the first $500. This year, we have $1.6 million in restricted funding and 17 employees statewide. We'll probably be 20 employees by the middle of next year. We don't just only serve people in Colorado City. There are fundamentalist populations, rural communities all over the state, all over actually North America. We serve people in Canada and Mexico and in 18 states as well. And so our advocates, most of us come from these communities, have come from these communities in the past. And so we really get it. And the other thing that makes that so great is that the people know us and they know we're not going to exploit them. They know we're not going to force them to do anything, and they know they can trust us. And so we're in people's homes, helping families become stable. And I think that's such a huge accomplishment. Plus, I think all of our advocates are really beautiful. So just really, really quickly, I think everybody's really familiar about what happened out in Short Creek. And the fallout really has been with the crisis and the trauma that people have experienced, that there's a lot of mental health needs. There's a lot of depression, a lot of suicide. We have a suicide at least monthly and sometimes a couple of times a month. And it's a huge loss. And so that's one of the things we deal with. One of the services we provide is mental health services. And so we do have a plan. We have a big plan, and it's not just throwing things at people. It's like, oh, you're hungry, here's some food. It's actually sitting down and developing a plan for self-sufficiency, becoming, oh, hello. Hello. Did I push the button? I probably pushed the button. Sounds like you pushed the button. I'm graceful like that. And so we start, with Maslow's hierarchy. Obviously, safety takes precedence. So we do a safety plan first if somebody needs it. And then we talk about where are we living and what are we doing for education. And we just build from the ground up and we create goals with each family. So that if a family comes in for food, we're figuring out how to keep them from needing food next time. So that they're learning how to help themselves. And our services include crime victim advocacy. That's actually our biggest grant is a federal Victims of Crime Act grant from the Utah Office for Victims of Crime. And we do a huge amount of crime victim services. And it's really fantastic because over the course of 85 years in the state of Utah, where people were felons for living their religion, nobody ever reported to law enforcement when they were victims of crime. And now we're starting to get crime victim reports out of these communities. And it's just become having a huge turnover where women are finally feeling safe to come forward and report crimes against them. And so we offer a ton of mental health and trauma counseling services. The wraparound family peer support services are funded by the state of Utah, and we're having some really great success with that too. And that's where we have our Crisis to Thriving program, where families go in and identify where they are, or where they want to be, and identify the steps on how to get there. We provide housing assistance and community education. Just last night we had a parenting class that we had 25 people show up at. And because Warren Jeffs took children away from parents and didn't let parents ever learn how to parent. And so now they're learning how to parent in our building, and it's really phenomenal. We do financial literacy, health relationships, personal safety for women, because all of us who are raised there, we're always taught and socialized to be submissive and to be obedient to men. And so when young women would leave our community, predators could smell them from 300 miles away and would often come and find them because they were so easily they were impressionable and easily swayed. And so now we have a class where we teach women how to protect themselves and how to say no and how to be really firm. We do have a food pantry and basic needs there, and we provide a lot of case management. We collaborate with everybody that will. I'm just going to say right now, I'm going to give a shout out to Eric. The county attorney's office is one of our best collaborators. And we will collaborate with anybody who will. And I love that they'll call me in whenever they have a case from our town so that we can provide the kind of services and the language that women understand. And then we provide access to employment and education. So I'm going to tell a couple of stories. Nadia, I just come up and help me. And you always tell such awesome stories. One of the things that growing up, we were never allowed to have Christmas. And so as families break away from the LDS church, one of the things that we do is provide the first Christmas for them because so many families are really impoverished. And so we do this community program, and we do a day of Christmas crafts. We make a decorated cookie and sit on Santa's lap and get a stocking. But it's just so much fun to provide that first Christmas for families every year. And some years we've had to provide some families a couple of years while they get on their feet.
But we've always had new families every year. Someone celebrates a first Christmas every single year. And that is exciting to us.
And sorry, this is just total squirrel, but I did want to say Daria was one of our very first employees as well.
I was their first crime victim advocate, first one they put through the training. And it's actually one of the main reasons, one of the main reasons that I ran as mayor, because I understood where the people came from, and I was trauma informed. I got it. I just got it. So those tools helped me be able to grow and move on.
So that's one of the things that we try to do is as we hire women, we're also putting a lot of development into them so that they go on and become community leaders. And Exhibit A, so proud of that. Like I said, we have many collaborators. So over the years, as you can see, our demand has really increased. The number of services has far outpaced the amount of money that we've received, but we are so grateful to do this. And we're always figuring out ways of making it work. One of the things we do is mobile advocacy. So what happened in Colorado City is that Warren just sent many people away from their homes, and they've moved to other states, they moved to other communities. And so we don't ask people to come to us, we go to them. And so whenever somebody calls and asks for help, we're driving to Richfield, we're driving to Beaver, we're driving to Cedar City, and we're providing services in homes or wherever they're comfortable. Oh, so this building remodel, if you ever get a chance to come out to Colorado City, it is so amazing what we've done with that. The building was hideous. I don't know what other word you use for it. It was really awful. And we put in classrooms and conference room and offices and just completely remodeled that. And it's looking so amazing. And so for success stories, I did get permission from these two women to put their pictures up. I'm always so hesitant to do this, but a couple of things that we've done is help people actually report crimes and get people put in jail. We had predators come to the community specifically to exploit this very vulnerable population. And so being part of that prosecution and giving women the courage to press charges has been part of what we do. This woman was one of the earlier women that called me, and she found out that her children were living with her 19-year-old sister-in-law, and they were being abused severely because this girl didn't know how to parent either. And so we went to court in Arizona and got her temporary custody and got that family reunited. Those kids are now in school. The mom has a job, and that family's doing really well. They have their own home in Colorado City that she owns. And so we have so many amazing stories. And this one, this October 19th, where one of our advocates came and said half of the birth certificates she's been working on were finally approved by the judge today. And then just this morning on my way out the door, I got the message that the other half were approved. So we've got a family that's able to now move forward because their kids have the documentation that they need. Because Warren just didn't allow them to do birth certificates when they were born on one of his compounds in Colorado. So we have some amazing stories. I wanted to leave time for questions, but also, are you doing cry? I just didn't want to take up too much time. I could pontificate for 8 hours. I could just go on forever. And I didn't want to have a script today. I just kind of wanted to speak from my heart. Don't make me cry. And so I just wanted to give a kind of high overview of what we do. And I'd love to answer questions or Donnie will tell more stories. Yes. Okay, so she gave me this mic because I'm going to answer this very politically correct. We've had very well-meaning people come to the community to help. That is a religious-based organization. And as you might know, we've had a lot of religious persecution there. So to come in with the whole idea, forgive me if I say this and I'm offensive, but if you come in with the idea of my Jesus is better than yours, you might not be received so well. So we're not in competition, but we do two different things. They have been shipping people up from Phoenix to help, and these people have come from prison. They provide services to the community if you go to their building and join their church or participate in their church activities. The thing about Cherish Families is we absolutely never require you to join a church or join a club or anything. You need help, you need services provided, and we understand where you're coming from. So I don't want to downplay the work that Dream Center does. They are part of Hilldale. Jana Jones is no longer there. Her and her husband are gone. They have someone else there. They are a very, very wealthy church, and they have what they need. And so when women from inside can tell our story and help people that have similar stories, that is so empowering to each woman, each man, and each child. But when we have people come in and tell our story for us, you've already heard it 7th, 3rd, 10th, or 20th times around, right? So that's one of the main, that is the reason that I support Cherish Families so much, but I don't want to say Dream Center is bad. Person who's recording from the spectrum, you just, because they're not. They're very good, well-meaning people. They really are. We just provide two different things. We don't require that you change to get help with Cherish Families.
I think it can be hard to see for total for being a part of this world is a big challenge. Many hurdles. What is your biggest barrier from intake all the way to successful independence, and how can we help?
Well, I think the biggest barrier, one of the biggest barriers I had is that I never had enough funding for mental health services. The state of Utah has been really, really great and generous. Oakland's been great and generous. We do have a couple of other places that we do it, but we have such a huge number of people with such a high level of trauma that need it. We're always running out. We've already run out for this fiscal year for our mental health funding. And so that's for us, you know, it's really important that we get people safe, and it's really important that we get them housed. But unless we address that trauma, we're not ever going to get it back into society. And so that's a big deal. One of the other challenges we have too is the border, frankly, the Arizona-Utah state border. I will say, we could just go ahead and tell this to the governor of Arizona. Utah has come to the table. Utah has been there. Utah has done reformations. Utah has, thank you, Utah. Utah's provided funding. Utah cares. State of Arizona is just barely coming to the table to begin to commence to start to perhaps prepare to talk. And so we're glad you're at the table, but right now, you know, the 2/3 of the community is on the Arizona side of the border. And so getting funding for services there has been a barrier.
From victims, survivors, seeing what they're telling us through, there's still people, well, I think there are still people that are following law and justice and, you know, stopping their kids from education. And, network children and all that
Okay.
stuff is also going on.
So the question, I don't know if there's people online that wish that they could hear the question. The question is, are there still people following Warren Jeffs? And the short answer is yes, but it's a lot more complicated than that. So the attrition rate is about 90%. We think there are fewer than 10% of people who used to follow him who still follow him. And of those 10%, there's a continuum. But they're really still solid doing everything he said, or kind of not, and kind of doing this and kind of moving down this continuum. So I will say, you know, in my own family, my own siblings, there were 11 of us. There's only one that follows Warren Jeffs of those. And he's talking to his apostate siblings. So he's kind of on down the line. And so I see a lot of attrition, a lot of people breaking away from that, but I also see people going and, you know, starting their own little cult.
Under the name though, under the name Warren Jeffs. So that same teaching is still there, yes.
So you said that suicide. What age is are the people that are being
The suicides, the youngest was a 16-year-old boy and the oldest was a 72-year-old man. The vast majority are between 18 and 28. But we did have a 34-year-old 2 months ago, and then last month it was a 32-year-old. Mostly men. There's only been one woman that we know of, and she starved herself to death, really, and she had health problems. But mostly it's men, young men, boys. We do know why.
The reason that it's mostly men is because when Warren took families away, it always started with the man. And so we're just gonna do a pretend. It's really a true story, but it's a pretend. So a man has 3 wives, and one day he goes in to be judged. And they say, you are not worthy anymore, and you're to be sent away. And he goes home and he tells his family, I am not worthy anymore. Take my picture off the wall and never speak my name again. And then he goes out. And a lot of men have found out once they went out, whoa, this wasn't right. I need to go back and get my family and teach them what's right. Only before he left, he said, if I ever come back and tell you that the prophet is wrong, run to the bishop. Don't talk to me. I'll be a wicked man. So when he figures things out, he goes back and tries to get his family back. And they say, no, you told us if you did this to run. So they run. And so he has now had his priesthood stripped away, his family stripped away, his business stripped away, his home stripped away, and now his family stripped away. Like, he has nothing left. And then he's told, go out into the world, go as far away from anybody that you know as you can, and try to make the best of your life. That's it. God, hell, and the devil don't want him. That's all he knows. And what is there left? What is there left? There's no hope. And when you have no hope, what's the point?
And so for the young boys too, when you consider that, you know, they weren't allowed to get education and they didn't have any support systems outside of the community, and then you have that high level of trauma, and what happens with that? I mean, there's tons of research that supports this, but they go out and start self-medicating and getting in drugs and alcohol, and that really puts them in a downward spiral, and that's where most of the young men. Yeah. So there was a question over here, sorry.
Can you tell me about what of people you are helping leave that way of life, like leave that area versus services that you're providing for the people that are staying?
Okay, so thank you for asking that question, because I realized I made this assumption that people understand what's been going on. And so The question is, how many people am I helping leave versus stay there and receive services there? Okay, so let me define terms first. I will help anybody leave who wants to leave. And in fact, when I first started doing this work, my big goal was to help every woman that wanted to get out of Shore Creek. Now that women can own their own homes and that it's mostly a secular community out there, I'm helping people go back there and just start a real life and have all of their own choices and everything. And so I think what I hear in your question is that you assume that people who are still living there are still part of the FLDS church. That's not accurate. There's only about 15% of the community who still follows Mormons out there. The vast majority is now secular, the entire valley. And so we are doing a lot of services there. The vast majority of the services we're doing there are people who are no longer following, but we do also provide services for people who are still following Mormons.
Which actually is one of the beauties of that, because even though they may still believe that way, they still need help. And one thing people ask is, when I see them in Walmart, they don't smile. When I see them on the street, they don't talk to me. Why? Their trauma is so deep and so vast. And so I just lost my train of thought. But and some people say, why don't they smile? What have they to smile about? And then you don't know where they actually are. You don't know what's going on. Are they smiling because they're going through exactly what Shirley and I went through, of knowing that they were going to be walking away from their family and their support system for the rest of their life? And they don't know what? And so maybe they are in so much contemplation, they can't see past right this moment. And so to reach out with kindness, you don't know if you'll be that shining light just by smiling at them and saying hello, even if they don't say hello back. But that act of kindness breaches all barriers. And it makes you available when they do reach out. And so that is my number one preach. Be kind. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter. Be kind. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's a great question.
And it's a big one, and I'll let Mayor Jessup answer part of it, but I will say we have been collaborating with Washington County School District for a long time of helping kids get back into school. What we're finding is the vast majority of kids at their home schools got about to a third grade education. So when you have a kid that should be in 8th, 10th grade, and they're going back to school and they have to have a lot of remedial education, and there's big barriers for those kids. And so helping the families keep those kids in school is part of some of the biggest things that we do in the community. But having them there has been phenomenal.
So 4 years ago, when we reopened that school, we started at 132 students. Now we are almost to 700 in 4 years. On top of that, DSU has come in, and we've been able to do adult education. We do the dual enrollment with the high school, so they're going on to college. And what I'm seeing, I sat with my daughter today at Water Canyon High, revamping her program so that she would stay in school. It is so frustrating to me. Shirley and I wouldn't give it anything. Like, we graduated high school, but we didn't get prom. We didn't get sports. We didn't get the fun stuff. We had each other. That was our fun stuff. But to see my kids not like drink in that knowledge and that education, those opportunities, just makes me want to scream. So it's a constant, let's stabilize, keep everything stabilized so they can take every single opportunity. The DSU, SUU, MCC, all of those college programs have reached out to help us get those kids further educated and meet them where they're at, and then the adults. I'm going back to school in the spring. I haven't publicly announced that. That's my goal. I feel like, I can't remember who, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Honestly, I feel like I am just a kid out of school and I'm ready to roll. And I'm 51. So there's a life to be lived, and it's just fun to be here.
But I will say that making sure that families are stable for us, for Cherish families, we know that the adults are probably about to the level that they're going to be. And what we intend to do is change the trajectory for their kids. And so if we can stabilize that mom and so that her child stays in school and they're getting mental health services, we know that in 20, 30 years, the outcomes are going to be really, really great for that community.
The schooling educational collaboration, but they are helping stabilize it. The city's picking up and getting people in to help with that education. It's just always a collaboration. It's working together to grow our community. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you all. I'm just going to give a round.
Yes.
I started at school, and in the first year that I can remember, like the students who graduated, like graduate that year, began at a sixth grade level, and he completed 6 years in 1 year.
Wow.
The following year,
27 graduates.
and next year we should have 40. And just so proud of this community that has stepped up. And it's so fun to walk in that school and see total diversity.
Yeah.
And I love it. Anyway, you guys are awesome in getting your kids there. They're doing wonderful things. And with the colleges that come, millions of dollars are given to these kids as scholarships and baby college. So anyway,
And your name.
I'm wondering if there are like I really want to know, but maybe are any of you may have gone, I don't know, they work with my husband, it's maybe not the situation. I don't know.
She and I have a really strong opinion about polygamy. We're not that side. There are very strong, stable plural families, many. I came from one. My dad had 2 wives. And just 2 nights ago, we were sitting there talking about that. And my mom said, I'm so grateful that we had Mom Joy. And I said, I'm grateful we had Mom Joy. I loved having 2 moms. But as a woman, I don't want to do that. But as a child, I loved it.
I will say that while my younger sister was married to my husband, it worked really, really well for me. And it's in ways that people don't even realize unless you're there. And for me, it was, my daughter was born, she was in a medical accident, and she was in the hospital for 3 years. And I'm sitting there in Las Vegas with my baby for 3 years. Oh, my younger sister is home raising my kids and loving them and keeping them in a stable environment for me. And teaching them to read. My AJ, he's 4 years old, he was doing math in his head.
Wow.
And so, if they would have been being shuffled from babysitter to babysitter, that would have been a much more horrible time for me. I will also say I didn't like my husband and he didn't have it and it worked.
And you turn that off. We did a lot more.
Yeah. But there are also families who the wives love each other, they love the husband. And as far as a religion, as far as a family configuration, I don't have any beef with that. I have beef with women not having choices. And I would say the FLDS is one of the only groups, the fundamentalist plural groups, that does arrange marriages. Most of the others don't arrange marriages.
And also, just because they're dressed FLDS does not mean they're in a plural situation. And in fact, they aren't. Because you all know that we're in 2 families apart. There's no one married in the FLDS, and they're not having children. So that part of it isn't even the issue. That's not what we're really working on.
How about a comparison between the Colorado City side and the Centennial side?
Oh.
So our experience is the Centennial side has been more open to the world, but I'd like some insight. And you should probably get some background. So people
Okay. Yeah. So he asked about Centennial Park versus Colorado City. And so Centennial Park, they're all our cousins and relatives because we were all one group until the mid-1980s. And then they started having a disagreement over doctrine and who was in charge. And they picked up and moved out across the highway and created their own community. And so they maintained a lot more of how it was when we were growing up, just a lot more open, a lot more focused on education. They didn't take their kids out of school and go off and be really radical. And so the Centennial Park is actually really close to what I remember my childhood being.
So it's still a polygamous community, but it was a lot like, so it is a polygamous community and it's a lot like where we grew up. Colorado City and Hillbell
are the ones that have moved on and the demographics are completely different. And come out to the school if you want to see what Hilldale, Colorado City look like. You walk in the school and you would never think you were in Hilldale. That's what our community looks like.
It looks like a regular school, yes.
My question is, and it sounds like there's need for men, women help as well, but my wonderment is the community just full of single moms now, or are there actually moms and dads together and children?
It looks a lot like St. George does. Like there's a lot of single moms in St. George, there's a lot of single dads, and there's a lot of complete families. It looks just like that.
I will say per capita, there's probably more single moms, and those moms have more kids
Yeah, but
than the moms in St. George do. And so when a family's in need, it's generally a much higher need. And so, you know, when we encounter things like that, I remember one of the earlier cases, I had a mom went and got her kids. She was sent away, she went and gathered her kids back up, and they didn't want to be with her. And she came to St. George looking for help. And so we're suddenly looking for a house for 10 people, and she has no income. You know, this isn't just let's find her a room at the Dove Center. This is a big deal. And so everything is magnified. All of the needs are magnified when we have those single moms. Yeah.
On the funding that you receive, how much or what percentage is government grants or government funds? How much strings do they attach? How many mandates do you have to deal with?
Thank you for asking that. When I put my budget up here and I said it's restricted funding, probably about 1.2 of the 1.6 million, no, it's gotta be more than that. 1.3 or 4 is government funding from either the state or from the federal government, and it has all of the strings. We have to report on everything, and it's also on a reimbursement basis, by the way. They don't give us the money, they go do the work. They go do the work and then send us a bill for what you did. And so there's a lot of restrictions.
a lot of accountability.
And then on top of that, federal government says, so we go to them and say, we'll do all of these things, and we give them a big list for $1.5 million, and they say, great, here's 75% of it, go raise the rest. So that's where I spend a lot of my time pulling out my hair. Christy knows. Yes.
Other than money donations, what kind of opportunities are there to help? Like just Christmas and.
So we need somebody to help us do like development. We need somebody to help us to do social media. We need help. Like we're trying to put in a beautiful, what do they call it? It's a therapeutic garden that's been designed for us outside of our building that we can go have groups in. And we want to start putting that in. So we, donations toward, plants and pipe and things like that to getting that in, and also physical labor. And we're coming up on Christmas. Oh, and we're coming up on Christmas right now too. And with Christmas, we could use help sorting the gifts and delivering them, wrapping. We could use help on our craft day. There's lots of opportunities. One of the things we have to be really careful of, because we have the victims of crime funding, is that we can't really have people in our building while we're doing crime victim services because of the confidentiality requirements. They're very, very high. Christy knows about that too.
Well, it's actually one of the things we're most proud of too, and I want to touch back with the Dream Center and Cherish families, because the confidentiality is number one. You can still be FLDS and reach out and get help from Cherish families that no one will ever know. So that is one of the most beautiful things, the most beautiful gifts we can offer a mom or a child that needs help. We'll never tell. It's not our story to tell.
So with our Christmas list, I'll come back to that. Go ahead. It is scheduled for December, the first Saturday in December. Is that the 5th? 4th-ish? Okay, yeah. And so we'll be, we'll want somebody to bake cookies and make icing and come and run the icing booth or come and stuff stockings and all those kinds of things. It's really fun. Yes. Probably, but if you're interested, I'm going to definitely connect you to Darlene because she wrangles all of that. Luckily, I don't have to. Darlene Stubbs. And Donia will give you her telephone number. She's our, yes.
If you have pens, 435-669.
3371. So 435-669-3371. Her name is Darlene Stubbs. And I just wanted to really quickly talk about the wish list. One of the projects we've done with the Colorado City Marshal's Office is we have a lot of kids that have suddenly they've been released into the world that are out riding bikes and doing motorbikes and all kinds of things. And because of trauma, they're out there doing, very daredevil stuff. And they don't wear helmets. And so we have kids that end up in crisis with brain injuries because they haven't had helmets. And so one of the projects we've done it's called the Helmet Hair Project. And we're trying to make it cool to wear a helmet. And we're starting to get some headway, but we always love donations of helmets. I just wanted to let you know that's why that was on the list. Did you say we had time for one more question? One more question. Yes.
Is all this information available on your website?
All of the information, well, which information? What we do, everything that we do is on our website, yes. My personal story is not on the website.
But now it's on the spectrum or whatever she was
So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time.
That was very worthwhile. I know we're a little bit over, but I felt like it was really worth it. So for those, we have a lot of new members, so I'm going to tell you real quickly how we do this. We have this little Christmas tree, actually, Shirley, that Christmas tree is decorated. I don't know if you have a chance to look at it. It's kind of focused on Cherish families. And our gift for you is to take all the ornaments home with you, so you can decorate your own tree, your office, or your building. And we have, anyways, that's for you. Now, all of you guys, all of us, we're invited to take a look at this list and to be generous. And between now and our Christmas party in December, do some Christmas shopping for Cherish families. Thank you. And here's their wish list. And then this is what I'm hoping. Next month, I think it's December 2nd, is our Christmas party. I know you get lots of Christmas parties, and sometimes you think you don't have time for another one. You have time for this one because it's more than a party for you. It's a party for Cherish families. And right now you're all touched by it. Don't let the magic leave you on December 1st. Okay, December 2nd, come back with your arms full of packages to put under the tree. And we invite Shirley to come back and take all the Christmas gifts home to the kids. It will be a wonderful thing. Now, here's the other thing. I heard a rumor, so I hope I'm not telling you a lie. I heard that some of the entertainment is in Colorado City. She's a singer.
I will tell you that it's going to be my younger sister who used to be my sister wife. And she is incredibly talented, and she's actually making a living as a musician now. And so it's going to be really awesome.
So you'll want to come back for our party, and you'll want to dig deep into your pockets to help somebody that you don't know, but that has touched your heart today. And I appreciate you all coming. Now, just one other thing too is that they are going to be our 501c charity for the year 2022. So each month we'll have a little bit of a focus on them, and you'll learn that as we go into the year. I won't take any more time, but I just wanted y'all to know that. And thank you so much. Okay, let's just give Shirley and Donia one last thank you. We're so grateful that you all came today, and we're just so grateful for what you have done, continue to do for our community, because Short Creek is our community, and we love you and we're grateful for you.
I can tell that we have a lot of people that are interested in helping out as well, so we take that note. You'll see there's a Venmo. You can scan your Venmo if you're a Venmo user in order to donate money, got gifts. Also, if you weren't able to write down that phone number that they need to, if you would like to, you can email at our email address or at their email address. Anything that we get, we will send a list of names of people who may want to help volunteer in other ways along to Cherish families and make sure that they get that. So email us, you email them, and we'll make sure you're connected with the opportunities to serve that you want. And one final plug for our December meeting. It's going to be fantastic. And what you felt today, we wanted to do more of an overview, but next month we're going to focus on stories and on people and on individuals. And what a wonderful way to begin the Christmas season of giving. So thanks one more time.